Alright, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're grabbing our magnifying glasses and putting on our best detective hats, because we are diving deep into one of the most beloved genres out there, the classic whodunit. We're gonna crack the case on what exactly is that secret formula that makes these stories so darn good. So let's start right there. What is the secret? I mean, what are those key ingredients that take a regular old crime story and turn it into this incredibly compelling game for your brain, something that's kept people hooked for more than 100 years? You know the ones I'm talking about, right? Those classic setups. They're designed to just grab you from page one. Think about it. A locked room mystery. A body is found in a room that's sealed shut from the inside. Your first thought is, how on earth did that happen? Or how about this one? The body in the library. I mean, talk about a contrast. You've got the shocking, violent crime in what's supposed to be the most civilized, quiet place imaginable. These scenes, they're like the opening moves in a chess game. They set the stage perfectly. And my personal favorite, a handful of people all trapped together in some remote country house, maybe by a snowstorm. Everyone's a suspect. So yeah, the stage is set. But to really get to the heart of this formula, we've got to go back, way back, to the guy who basically invented the whole genre. So, who was this inventor? Well, our first big clue points to someone you might not expect. We're talking about the master of horror himself, Edgar Allan Poe. Yup, the guy famous for all those spooky, gothic tales actually laid down the entire blueprint for what would become the modern detective story. So in stories like The Murders in the Rue Morgue, Poe came up with this brilliant concept he called ratiocination. It's a fancy word, but the idea is simple and honestly so satisfying. It's the belief that you can solve any puzzle, no matter how crazy it seems, just by using pure step-by-step logic. It's this fantastic promise that reason can conquer chaos. And he didn't stop there. With his detective, a guy named C. Auguste Dupin, Poe created something else that became absolutely essential: the classic detective duo. You've got the super genius detective, right? And then you've got his friend who's, let's say, not quite on the same level. That friend is basically us. He's the one who gets to ask, how did you figure that out? So the detective can explain his amazing logic out loud for everyone to follow. Okay, so Poe basically invented the game. He laid out all the fundamental pieces. But the formula itself, the recipe that could be used again and again, that was perfected during a very special time. And that time is what we call the golden age of detective fiction, which really hit its stride in the 1920s and 30s. Now you have to remember what was going on in the world. This was the period sandwiched between two absolutely horrific world wars. People were craving a sense of order, a feeling that things made sense, and these clever, tidy little murder puzzles, they were the perfect escape. And this era gave us some absolute legends. I mean, the true masters of the craft. We're talking about the queens and kings of crime. Agatha Christie, of course, Dorothy L. Sayers, G.K. Chesterton. These writers took Poe's blueprint and turned it into this incredibly sophisticated game between the author and the reader. And they followed a pretty specific recipe. You usually had a cozy setting, right? Like a fancy country house. The crime was almost always a murder because, high stakes, and you had a limited group of suspects. But the absolute key ingredient, the thing that made it all work, was this promise of fair play. It was like a pact with the reader, saying, hey, I'm going to give you every single clue the detective gets. Let's see who can solve it first. It made you a participant, not just a spectator. So what's really wild is that this fair play idea, it wasn't just a vibe, it was an actual written down set of rules, like for a real game. Yep, in 1929, an author named Ronald Knox actually laid out his 10 commandments for writing detective stories, a full-on manifesto. And these rules were all about keeping the game honest. No cheap tricks. The killer had to be someone you'd already met. No supernatural nonsense was allowed. The detective couldn't secretly be the bad guy. And, this is crucial, the detective had to share every clue they found with you, the reader. It was all about creating that level playing field. It's what makes solving it yourself feel so good. Now, it's also important to remember that these rules came from a very specific time. One of them, Knox's fifth rule, is, well, it's pretty shocking to us today. It explicitly used racist tropes. And while it's uncomfortable to look at, it's also a really important historical artifact. It reminds us that even something as seemingly innocent as a literary game can reflect the biases of its time. And Knox wasn't the only one. In the very same year, an American author, S. S. Van Dyne, came out with his own list. He had 20 rules. Van Dyne really doubled down on this whole fair play thing. For him, it was all about respecting the reader's intelligence. He insisted the reader had to have the exact same opportunity to solve the crime as the detective. He also said the crime had to be a murder. Anything less just wasn't worth your time. And he had a list of forbidden solutions. No secret societies, no unknown poisons, and famously, the butler was off limits as the culprit. It was all about pure logical deduction. So, you've got this perfect little puzzle box created by all these rules. A neat, tidy world where logic always wins. But things change, right? So what happened? Where did this formula go? Well, after the Second World War, the mood of the world shifted. It got darker, more cynical, and a new kind of detective emerged to match it, the hard-boiled PI. This wasn't the detective of the cozy drawing room. This was the detective of the mean city streets. He wasn't solving puzzles with his brain power. He was solving them with his fists and a pistol. His goal wasn't to restore order. It was just to survive the chaos. But here's the thing. Even with all the gritty thrillers and tough guy detectives, that original formula, it never really went away. Because the pure satisfaction of solving a smart, logical puzzle, that's timeless. The formula didn't die. Not at all. It just adapted. I mean, just think about it. You see its DNA everywhere. From classic TV shows like Murder, She Wrote that kept the cozy vibe alive, to huge modern movies like Knives Out and its sequels, which are basically a giant love letter to the whole genre. That golden age formula is still kicking, still giving us that deep satisfaction of watching a complicated puzzle get solved, piece by piece. It just proves how powerful that original formula is. So, here's a little homework for you. The next time you're reading a mystery or watching a whodunit, see if you can spot these golden rules in action. It makes you wonder, right? In a world that feels so messy and unpredictable, maybe that's the real magic of the murder mystery. It's that simple, comforting promise that every single puzzle has an answer, and with enough logic, we can find it.